Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and today you're getting a first look at Warhammer 3 gameplay. Now, a few weeks ago, I had the chance to attend CA's press event for Warhammer 3, where I had the opportunity to play a brand new battle mode called Survival Battle for roughly 3 hours, and interview the developers after the experience. Unfortunately, since this was an online event due to the global COVID pandemic, the gameplay was conducted remotely over the cloud and recorded locally by the cloud service providers, who eventually end up losing my footage. But despite this misfortune, CA was able to provide me with a battle played by one of their team members who played it much better than I did, to allow me to showcase this brand new battle mode to you all. And it happens that since this was recorded locally and played locally, the quality of the footage actually ended up better than the one that I recorded, which had some small lags due to the remote nature of the gameplay. So without further ado, let's take a look at some Warhammer 3 gameplay.
Warriors of Kislev! We have traveled far and fought hard, but at last we have arrived in Khorne's bloody realm. Before us stands the brass Citadel, where the Blood God's gatekeeper stands guard. We must call out the fiend and slay him. He rallies his demons for a last desperate defense. Vanquish them with ice and steel. This is a ruined fort, defended by Khorne's lesser thralls. Wipe them out and capture the icon of ruin. This will give me a foothold and grant us supplies to reinforce for the struggle ahead.
Alrighty, so we're going to be pausing quite a bit throughout this gameplay, and I'll be narrating over what's happening on screen. But first we have to give some backgrounds, especially since many viewers on my channel might not be familiar with the Warhammer trilogy, as this is Warhammer 3, the conclusion of the trilogy of games that has been part of the Total War mainstay for the franchise, at least in the fantasy realm. And here we have the army of Kislev. And Kislev in this universe is a mixture of Poland culture and Russian culture, and they're situated on the world map of the Warhammer universe, similar to where Poland and Russia would be. The world of Warhammer is very similar to the actual world, with many fantasy flares, and here we have a faction that kind of represents the northern parts of Europe, Eastern Europe. And the main story arc in Warhammer 3 is that in the far north, there is the gateway to the realm of chaos, this dimension where the demon lords live, and we're assaulting them as part of the story arc. And playing as Kislev, one of the new factions being added into the game, we are making our way through the realm of Khorne, who is this demon of blood, violence, and we're at his brass citadel, which is his final settlement. And that's where we have this first survival battle. This is a new battle type being introduced to the entirety of Total War franchises. You would have never played anything like this, and true to its name, it's going to be quite the experience for you to survive through it. And how this would work in parts to the campaign is that you will bring your initial army, which is being featured here, to assault this citadel or this settlement. And when you arrive, there is going to be stages to this battle, different capture points for you to progress through, and at each capture point, you're going to be challenged by waves of enemies, and ultimately when you reach the final capture point, the demon himself will send out his guardian, and by defeating that, you conquer this survival battle. So technically this battle could go on forever, because the enemy will keep sending waves and waves of enemies to try to defeat you. And throughout the whole process, you get a chance to replenish your troops, call in reinforcements, upgrade your units, and build structures around the map to help you defend these capture points that you will capture. And what we have here is the first part of the battle. Now, I'm sure you have many curious questions about how this fits in with the whole campaign. Like, none of the units you call in as reinforcement will actually stay with you after the battle, because you get this unique resource called supplies, which you can keep track up here on the top. This is supplies. These represent each of the capture point. We're at the first one. You can see the icon right here and the flag that represent the capture point right here. And basically, if you don't have the capture points, you cannot call in reinforcement that is made available to you after you capture each capture point. And on top of that, there's an active debuff against your army when you don't control each capture point. So as you control more and more capture point, those debuffs goes away and you do better in this realm of chaos. And you can sort of see the minimap here. First capture point, second capture point, third capture point. So the person who played this, since I'm narrating over his gameplay, does a very good job of showcasing all the units, and he does it on slow mode. You have the half speed option as well, so we'll get a pretty good look at all the units, and let's jump to that. So the first unit here we see is the Winged Lancer, obviously drawing inspiration from the Poland aspect of Kislev faction, and they are basically really great anti-infantry shock cavalry. They have really good charge animation, very similar to Three Kingdoms. The cavalry is really good payoff in terms of visually how the charge works. The problem with them is that they are not very good in sustained combat, which is very similar to Three Kingdoms. And then we have the Tsar's Guard. This is your heavy, meaty frontline units. And a common theme among most of the Kislev unit is that they have a good boost to leadership, which is the morale system in the game. So they can actually stand and hold positions and tough it out in the fight. They're a group of very hardy folks. They're on the front line against the Demon Realm since they're far north. And then we have the Hussars, which this is a bow version. You're going to see other variants of this group of units as the battle progresses when we can summon more units. And this is our leader here. This is our queen, Katrin, who is an ice witch, a very powerful ice witch with very cool animations. When she walks, she glides on ice that she creates underneath her foot, and sometimes she can raise herself up on top of a little ice mountain and attack from above. She has a lot of different ice spells, and obviously this depends on how you upgrade her through her skill tree. But this is a preset battle, and you have all these spells on the side. Some of them will increase offense for a certain unit, increase the defense of certain units by encasing them in ice but limiting their movement. There's also damage spells that are cone shape, damage spells that are AoE on the ground, and all sorts of ability and single target lockdown that you can use by using your Wind of Magic charge on the right. So basically you get magic resources over time. And because they were showcasing everything, the enemy just rushed right into our cavalry. Not ideal. When I was playing this, I was kiting them around the map a little. This is a very weak group of enemies, and the difficulty of this battle in particular that they were showcasing us during this event was set on easy, I want to say. There's a modifier which favors the player. The reason why they made it so simple, you can see one of the spells being featured, is because this was a press event, so they had members of the press there as well with different, capabilities in playing Total War games, so they didn't want to make this thing too difficult. And all the enemy health has been diminished as well, just so that everyone can get a feel for the event without being overwhelmed by it. Since obviously if you're playing this for real on the campaign, you're not going to bring such a small army to challenge this battle. This would be kind of the pinnacle fight for this realm of the demons. There's 4 realms of the demons in total, and you can see the upgrades being showcased right here. You can purchase upgrades with your supplies to boost individual troops. Now, I actually didn't go for these because I felt like the price was really expensive, and you don't get to keep the upgrades after battle. And then you also have the option to replenish health as well as ammo for your units, so you can heal them. You can even re-summon them once you capture a capture point, so that you can get a fresh, fully healed unit if you pay for the re-summoning cost. So it's kind of an in-battle redeployment. And you can see that we're holding the control point, capturing the flag. It's slowly taking up, and just very good environment. And the second that we capture it, you see all these build icon pop up. This is zone 1 And once we control it, we can build towers
Icon of ruin is
and
ours,
fortifications.
and we have supplies to fortify our position.
And she'll teach us that right here.
Use them to construct defensive towers here. We can barricade these bottlenecks. Use the portals to summon fresh troops or heal and upgrade our warriors.
Alright, so let's pause here. In the background, you see another portal. Those portals are for the enemy to summon waves and waves of enemies to attack your position, to retake this capture point. Because all the structures that has been introduced, the towers, the walls, the barricades, they will instantly get destroyed if the enemy controls the capture point. Otherwise, the walls can be attacked, but the towers cannot be attacked. You can't even destroy the towers, you have to take the point, and instantly all the towers will be destroyed. Now obviously building these structures will cost you a lot of supplies, so you have to weigh whether you want to spend your supplies on getting more reinforcement units of different types. Basically there's going to be preset reward units, a pool of units that you can recruit from after you capture each capture point, so you can spend the resources there, or to build out some towers and walls to fortify your capture point. Because as you progress through the waves and each capture point, enemies will continue to pour forth from this beginning area, from the portals that we are showing in the background, that will continue to assault you from behind as you try to push forward into each new zones. So you have to keep some troops here just to hold this point, or else you'll get overran, because as I mentioned earlier, each capture point also causes a debuff when controlled by the enemy. And this is a pretty neat battle type and feature that's being added into Total War, and it's kind of a pinnacle moment in the campaign as you're pushed to progress through the 4 realms of chaos. Now you also might be wondering, what if I'm playing as one of the 4 realms of chaos, because they are playable factions as well? Well, in that case, you are tasked with the storyline to challenge the other 3 demon lords of chaos. So you have 3 opportunities to fight these battles yourself. Whereas if you play as a mortal faction or some of the other factions that's not in the realm of chaos, you have 4 such opportunities to play this battle. And you can also play this battle in co-op as well as multiplayer. There's going to be new multiplayer modes being added into the game as well that kind of utilize this capture the flag mechanic. Not necessarily the supply aspect, but just to capture the flag, and it should offer some really neat opportunities for multiplayer battles in Total War as a whole, because right now you're kind of always in this open field or siege battle, and there's a lot of, opportunities for you to kite away from the enemy, whereas if you have sort of a king of the hill type of playstyle where you're incentivized to hold or capture certain points, it encourages more action in those fights. So let's get back to it as we'll see how the base is built out here.
Using whatever supplies we have left.
Alright, now you see a wave of enemies will soon approach you, and you have to build up your defenses, and he's summoning the reinforcement units right now. Now he's got one of each new type, and these are all new units. There's a lot going on. There is a horse archer, because not only do you have sort of a Polish-Russian feel, you have a Mongol feel as well here as well. So Mongolian horse archer vibe, harassing unit. The first unit that's being newly added is a spear and bow variant of the Corsair that we saw earlier. And the second unit is Strozzi, which is a very interesting unit. Okay, there's so much going on, but let's pause again. So this is a barricade location. You can build up to 4 different types of walls. The 250 cost one is a platform where your range units can step on this semi-ladder. Doesn't have a lot of health on it, but it gives you kind of a platform to shoot from. The second one, the 400 one that he is building, has a different type of boost. This is a monument. You pretty much erect this boosting building, and this is a barricade trap where enemy coming through get debuffed, whereas the monument give your unit buffs. And the 500 is straight up a wall, right, where you can just hide behind it, guide the enemy towards other key points. And he's going to build a couple of different types to show you. And in my gameplay, I actually went away from building walls at all and just spam towers because, I love towers. And there's 4 different types of towers as well. So this is the Horse Archer. They're a good harassment unit. Can shoot while on the run, has a little bit of charge. Strutzies. These units are awesome. I had a fun time playing with these guys. Notice their weapon. It's a gun. It's a rifle. But on the butt end, it's a great axe. So they are dual capability weapons. They're usually a range unit with very high armor piercing damage on the gun. And then when they get into melee, they flip their gun around and they got a battle axe to use in close range combat. Very, very cool. A lot of armor on these guys as well, so they can work on the front line. Very, very fun units to play around with. And then we have the Corsar with the spear. So this is the, bow and spear variant of the unit we saw earlier, which is just a bow unit. Well, he's buying some upgrades for his unit. Very interesting. Boost their range attack capabilities. So this is where the towers come in. So we have 4 types of towers as well. You have piercing towers. You have, well, we actually let him hover over them. We'll talk about them. Arrow towers. And then you have a magic projectile tower. And then you have a very cheap arrow tower. So the difference here obviously will be the cheap one has the least damage, and then the 751 has slightly better damage. The 101 causes armor reduction on the enemy, 30% less armor once they're hit by it. And then the magic one does slow, so it slows their movement and has like explosion range damage. And after testing these out, I kind of went with the 1000 one. I prefer shredding the enemy armor, and you can build towers in a bunch of places. But you see supplies very limiting. You can gain supplies by killing enemies and by holding these points. So you can start building up your defense as you see hordes and hordes of enemies being summoned at you. And we can take a chance to look at these enemies. These are bloodletters, a very basic infantry for the enemy. Oh, cinematic mode. And then this is the bulk of the enemy front line. And there's about 3 variants of this type of troop. They have shield and axe, dual axe, and great axe. Obviously doing different types of damage. Even the bloodletters have different variants. They have warhounds. Very weak against armor units, the warhounds. They do pretty much all base damage. Blowing it up. And these waves will come at you from all over. I think the first wave comes from this right side, and then the second wave comes from the left side, and you have to survive the wave. You can see the wave percentage right here. How many percentage of the wave have you killed? Once you hit 0%, and obviously this is a fantasy world, so we have magic. This is from our Ice Queen herself, helping us deal damage to the enemy. Slowing them. You can see that she used 2 different spells actually. Actually no, she only used 1. Well, she should have used the second one. There we go. Here's a co-attack. Really helps your unit out. And your cavalry come in for the charge. Or I hope. And the demon units are really interesting too by design. Because once they rout, well they never rout actually. Once their morale hits the point where they should rout, they actually slowly burn up and return to the realm of hell, as you can imagine. They kind of get banished back. You can see the floating on the ice animation. Very, very neat. And she attacks with ice spells. Just the animation on Catherine is just great. And that's a lockdown spell. Single target. Alright, so they're routing, but the bloodletters, when they rout, they just burn up on the map by themselves. They slowly lose health. They also have a couple boosts, as in if they have killed 80 units or more, their stats go way up, as they are bloodletters. And there's a variant of that troop with the sword being blessed by magic, where it's on fire basically. Alright, we took out the first 50% of the wave, which mainly came from the right side. Now for the left side to join the fun, you see all those portals popping up. And time to build those towers on this side as we have more supplies now. And the hounds from the back, these warhounds, those are just going to keep coming. There's also a flying variant that will come throughout the fight as well. Those come from the portals directly in the front. And obviously you can buy up to more troop, but there's a limitation as you see. You can get up to 3 of the Stratzes, 2 Horse Archers, and 2 Corsair, and that's all you can get from this zone. If you want more, you have to break through to the next zone, which is not accessible to us yet. As you can see, the Flaming Gate is still activated. We have to beat away this wave of enemies. So this is one of those trap towers. Where, oh, this is a monument, never mind. He built a monument here, which is giving boost to nearby units. You can see the gun being shot. Very smart use of the elevation. I was just putting these guys on the front line, but the Tsar Guard is definitely a better frontline unit. They're very, very sturdy. They're definitely, you can see the unit burning up. So they were low morale, and instead of routing away, they would just slowly burn up in terms of their health until they burn back to their realm of chaos. You can see the arrow towers just doing damage. This is a very basic one. I splurged. I pretty much went the best towers everywhere. Charge! Maybe it's time for a spell. Magic is very important. Catherine? Oh, she's here. That's an AoE. There's 5 phases to this spell. It will slowly do increasing ice damage during each phase that you stand on top of this, until obviously you melt yourself to the cold, and you can see it's building up each phase, and the damage is adding up until more and more. Just looking at their health, their banners just shredding up because of their health, and everyone's just dying here. Now, as we said, this battle is featured on slightly easier difficulty, and the enemy health is reduced, so it's gonna be a lot more difficult than this when you fight, and hopefully you bring a much better army when you're here to fight the pinnacle of battle against Khorne here. And the wave 1 is almost complete. Doesn't mean enemies will stop coming. As I always said, from this early position, the enemy will keep attacking. That's a magic tower. Does AoE, and I think that one slows. That's the 1251. Maybe a spell here? Cone shape? Oh, perfect. Look at that. Read my mind. And then a single target lockdown? Maybe a little bit extra. So what I eventually realized after playing this battle multiple times, I think I played this battle about 4 times, is that the initial troops tends to be a lot of Warhounds running at your position. They're really bad against armor unit because I mentioned they pretty much have no armor piercing damage. So Tsar Guard, who has like 80 armor, is perfect. Wave 1 is defeated. The fire has been lifted, and we enter Zone 2, which has this massive blood fountain and a group of units waiting for us at the second capture point. You see the the two-handed axe variant of the unit. And they're gonna charge us. Here's where you kind of defend this group, similar to the first battle where you have to beat the troop on top of the capture point, then capture it to gain access to the reinforcement, resources to build new towers in the second zone, and then a second wave will appear in the second zone, coming at you from all directions until you repel that, open the gate to the third zone, and then you beat the group guarding the third zone, and then the final wave shows up with the enemy's strongest unit. After you beat that, you win the battle. Oh, replenishing some of those ammo, because this is a massive and long fight, so you do want to replenish the ammo from time to time. It's 50% of your ammo back per refill. Cost about 200 supplies, not too bad. And here comes the enemy. And if you notice on the minimap, the enemies from the front are still coming. These are bloodletters, still the basic type, no flaming sword. That's the 2 variants for these. Here comes the 2-handed axe variants of these warriors. They're the mainstay of the enemy army. It's going to get fancier than these as we get into the last zone, but this is what they got so far.
Sons of Kislev!
And they got the cavalry charging at them. You see how when they die, they burn up back to their realm? It's very, very cool.
Thing lancers! Moving!
Oh, cycle charging. Okay, you see how they have the routing flag, but they're not running away, they're still charging at you? They'll just slowly bleed out, but they'll try to do as much damage as they can. Another charge, maybe?
Taking point! Commander Kislev! Go with honor!
Yeah, you see the charge feel? It feels very like Three Kingdoms. I mean, if you never played any of the old Warhammer games, the charge animation is not the greatest. Especially if you got used to Three Kingdom charge animation. Now, all the defenders are gone. This is actually the time to take stock of what you have. Don't capture it too fast until you get everyone there. The first time I played this, my mistake was my cavalry got there first, captured it, my infantry was halfway there, and then the enemy's wave 2 started coming, and it was bad. Alright, so he kept a few units here to guard this first point. It's very key. And the towers alone will not do it. He doesn't even have all the towers built. I spammed it to the point where I have all the towers. Actually, no, I think he has... I think there's up to 3 towers in the first zone. He has that one. You can sell these as well. You can also upgrade them to different tower by paying the difference. So it's actually very flexible. You can sell for half price. But upgrade, you don't have to pay extra. You just pay the price difference that it was supposed to be. These are the Warhounds that will keep trying to come at you. Yeah, pull the unit out. Don't capture it yet. The mistake would be capturing it too early when all your infantry is still halfway there and getting caught. It was not a fun first battle.
Thing lancers!
Tsarina Katarin!
Kossars!
Yeah, better set up that defense before the enemy come at you. Oh, he defended this very differently than the way I did it. He's trying to put every unit in the middle to make sure there's basically no gap. I defended much farther out.
Taking point! Kislev sends us forth! Corsachas! Go with honor!
Okay, everyone on the field, capture it fast. This enemy's gonna come at you from those, you know, left side and right side kind of pathways. It's also interesting how he kept the Tsar Guard here, because eventually there's gonna be, at least in my experience, there's gonna be flying units, and they'll just fly past your Tsar Guards, who obviously don't have range. The Patriarch, best unit to get right here, because he has a heal ability. And he's pretty tanky. He rides a bear. There's also going to be bear cavalry, spoiler alert, that you get in the third zone. Or maybe some here. No, here you get an upgraded version of the winged cavalry, but you do get bear cavalries, which just looks amazing. Oh, so he did spread out. This is similar to what I did. I thought he was going to just hole up in the middle. Build the towers. Build the towers. There we go. Splurge on the towers. Don't go for the cheap ones. Reduce armor by 30 points. Yes. Should have done it first, but anyways, he'll do fine. I think he ended up with a better score than I did at the end. So definitely played better than I did somewhere. Although I don't understand how the scoring system works. I think it's by time. I think I took too long just looking at the map and looking at the units. Oh, so here comes a new unit type. Not only these are Warhounds, they have bloodletters with flaming swords riding the Warhounds. Sort of a shock cavalry for the enemy here. Oh, he's using some traps. That's actually super smart. I just went away from building barricades at all. Went with all towers. Yeah, I kept a group of range units off to the side to snipe them from the side. Okay, see all the units you can get here. A couple familiar faces, a couple more Zarguard. I wish he bought the Ice Queen's Guard. There's a spear and bow variant that's really good frontline unit. I forgot what they're called. The unit right next to the ones with the guns. Oh, Patriarch. He's great. Look at the man. On the bear, he has 2 spells. One that gives you charge bonus and some, I think, leadership boost, and then the other one gives you a heal. Great for not only your units, but also for your leader. There's a very good single unit heals are always good. Alright, this is her own spell. She only has 2 charges, so this will be the final one we can use. The rest, the Winds of Magic on the right side, those you can use forever. There's no limits. It's just limited by the amount of Winds of Magic you have, the resource that's ticking on that hourglass. Like where you don't have the hourglass resources, you can't use them. So this is the big AoE freeze that's over 5 phases that we talked about earlier. And your front line is getting shredded. You use the heal, which you can see it's going to bounce that unit health back despite losing more units. At this point, maybe it's better to just recall the unit and heal them back out. Now, the Patriarch's not the greatest melee unit, but I guess he will do it in a pinch right here. And the spell's just amazing. More ammo? Okay.
Follow the bear! We fight for Ursa!
Ah, I see what he did with the Zarguards in the front. So even though there might be flying units, they will land and try to fight you, and then you would just shred them. I kept 2 frontline units and 2 bow units in the front. I guess that's a slight waste of resources. Here comes that flank charge.
Taking position! March with pride! Taking point!
He does have a lot of resources that he's not using. There we go. But he's doing a great job showing us the action.
Hearts of ice! Force them!
And 1%, 0%? Yeah, you can see they're doing a good job just holding the point for you.
One final push to the boiling moat. We must seize the icon of torment and tempt Khorne's gatekeeper.
And you have a flying bloodthirster. That tower, I didn't know it has such good range. I should have built more arrow towers, I guess. I went with the magic ones. You saw how that tower just shot through the building structures on the back line? You could just use that for defense. Wow. And you thought 3 Kingdoms arrow towers were broken. So you see all the magic swords now. All those glowing swords that's gonna shred your armor. Alright, send your defense up. Still chasing some units. Now the cool thing is, or not the cool thing, the chill thing here is that once you take control of the second point, there's no unit that will come from the sides. Ooh, there comes that new unit I talked about, the Ice Guards. These, ooh, here he comes. The Bloodthirster. Ooh. Look at that. There's no friendly fire from towers, don't worry. Ooh, they got him. Now that's not the final version. Once you take the third point, there's going to be other variants of the Bloodthirster that comes out that's a little bit stronger. That requires you to have a little bit stronger ally to help you take them down.
Kislev and Jews! Corsairs!
Yeah, that one died really fast.
Corsairs! To battle!
Yeah, I went with a lot of that magic tower.
Power!
Yeah, kiting is good. I think the cavalry, not only do they have good charge, they have really good speed. It's pretty obvious here. I mean, the Warhound will chase you down, but against these infantry, you can just cut away. Yeah, that's the final point. And once you capture this, the big citadel from the back and the two portals on the sides will be where the enemy will spawn, and you're kind of overwhelmed from 3 positions. But because there's no enemies that will come from the middle zone again, they'll still come from the first zone, as you can see the little dots on the minimap. You can actually destroy all the towers in the middle for the resources to get it back. And of course, all these strategies might be pointless when the game, actually come out and they adapt to it, because I was talking to developers about will the AI react to how you deploy, and their basic response is like the balance still being looked at, and they will basically make it interesting. It's going to be a lot harder than what we played. That's basically the response, because they made it easier so people with very little experience to Warhammer can play. Oh, here comes the flying guys. See, that's what I'm curious. How did he defend against here with no range unit? Like, what if they fly over him and just take the second point? Because that would be a disaster too. But I guess the enemies will always land and try to fight your Zarguard, which is something I didn't think about. I thought they would just like fly over me. But if they land and try to fight you, you kind of, dominate. Oh, those portals on the side. They're coming, that wave 3. And that's the big citadel and the portal in the middle here. Alright, get the infantry into position. Here it comes. Alright, new units. Let's pause here. All the units available now. We already see most of these. So this one is the Zarguard. We can get a couple more of these throughout the fight. The Cossars with the spears. The Strozzi with the guns and axe. The Ice Guard, spear and bow. Basically a better variant of these. Very similar to Strozzi in that they have good frontline. They have good anti-large damage as well. And then you have an upgraded version of the winged Hussars. Well, actually, these are the winged Hussar themselves. No, the Griffin Rider? There's a couple. Yeah, this is the upgraded version of the Winged Hussar. This is Griffin Rider, I think. A cavalry unit. Upgraded cavalry unit. Better armored. This is bear cavalry. You almost can't tell from the art, but they're riding bears. And then you have horse archers. Elemental bears, which you can see all their stats here. Feel free to pause yourself to look at things in detail. This is going to be your giant elemental creature that you can use to hold against the enemy bloodthirsters. A lot of health on these guys. They have one active ability where they blow ice out at the enemy. Basically a great frontline single unit, kind of help you hold the line against enemy giant units. And then you have a couple of cannons that you can use. You could have bought these, I think, in the... Actually, no, starting in this zone, I think you can start buying these. Not too impressed with these. They're single cannon, very, very long range, very narrow shooting angles, but fun to use. The enemy will also have a different variant of this unit against you. Here comes that elemental bear. 2 of them. You can get up to 2 of them. Towers. Maybe armor shredding would be best here. Okay, I do have to say the arrow tower is pretty good. But he didn't get any armor shred. He got the slow magic one and then 2 regular arrow ones. War bear riders. I don't fault him. Defaulted to 2 giant bears. Can't go wrong there. Here comes the skull crushers. I think those are, those are basically the mainstay infantry. I didn't see what weapon type that one was, but there's, as I said, dual axe, single axe and shield. Well, that one in particular is the one on the they're warhounds, right? They're on the warhound. Here's the cannon, skull cannon. This is their mortar. Oh, is that why he got the slow cannon? To slow down the enemy cavalry?
Sons of Kislev, we fight for
I mean, it's a good idea, but you have anti-large spear units.
Obey the orthodoxy! Sons of Kislev!
Oh, here comes those bloodthirsters. There's gonna be a lot of them.
Wing Lancers! For the throne!
Alright, he's trying to snipe out the enemy skull cannons from the side. I think that's the goal. That might be a dangerous move. Those skull crushers, I think, have anti-large. Bear cavalry, bear cavalry. Okay, ice guards, a smarter choice, but oh no, the skull cannons are hitting the bear.
Arena advancing!
Oh, it's pulling back. Yeah, this is where things get a little bit overwhelming the first time we play. Oh, this is not his first time playing for sure, but still.
Of witches!
This is the wave that's quite difficult. And I think the developer was saying when I mentioned, you know, you can just delete the cannons or the towers in the second zone as soon as you get past it. He's like, well, the plan is that if you get overwhelmed in the third zone, you can retreat back to the second zone and regroup. And I was like, didn't happen, but I guess good point. Ah, bear cavalry. Smaller unit size, but, you know, for good reasons. You imagine they have, you know, better charge value here. Yeah, spells are great. Alright, bear versus bloodthirster, the show that we all wanted to see. Or lockdown spell. Ah, before he flies. The guns shred him. The guns is really good armor piercing damage. Yeah, he got shredded. That's how you beat him. Basically focus your Strazis against him. That's a skull cannon. Who is he aiming at? Oh, did he leave a troop in the back? Yeah, I guess he maybe kept someone in the second zone.
Indeed! With honor!
It's actually quite impressive that the first two units that he upgraded the armor for in the first zone is like taking no damage against the enemy. Right, you can see those 77, 79 health ones with a little armor upgrade on the icon on the bottom.
The people's ruler!
That's a great defensive hold. Oh, those skull cannons got into the line.
The motherland's finest!
Here comes those bear cavalry. And the bear.
It is righteous!
The patriarch heal.
War as one speak! It is done!
Yeah, sustained fight is still not what cavalry is designed for. They will take a ton of damage. Oh, the wave is over.
Moving!
Where's the giant enemy demon that comes back, fights you at the end?
So be it! Moving!
Yeah, he ended this with like 6,000 supplies. Oh, here comes some more units. I usually end my fight with no supplies.
So be it!
Then again, I think I got like one of every unit. I got every unit that you could get. I didn't upgrade any of the armors or any of the weapons.
We fight for
Khorne's gatekeeper shows himself
Ah.
at last! Warriors of Kislev, prepare for the fight of your lives!
This is the special bloodthirster. And this is after the third wave. You get the final group of enemies that show up. The strongest group of enemies you have to fight.
A fool threaten the motherland
The
and
gatekeeper
you.
himself. And this is the boss fight.
Taking position! Defenders of Kislev!
Bears, get ready. Ooh, weapon upgrade. Alright, here comes the gatekeeper himself. You see the level on top of his name. He has so much stat. I remember checking him out. Oh, actually, let me try to pause him when he has him selected. So, Zgarog Fleshmaul is his name. 90 armor, 580 weapon strength. It's nuts. Like, you can see, compared to a unit that he has selected, the difference in weapon strength is off the charts. This thing hurts, and 20k health. I think it doubles the health of the bear. You just have to focus down your spells, focus your armor piercing damage right on top of him to get rid of him. And before he lands, your melee troop can't do a thing against him. And here he comes. That's why I decided to get the armor shredding towers. Oh, look at that. Your poor infantry. Here comes the bear cavalry. Ice guards. And the AoE spell to clear out the ones attacking the walls. Elemental bear. Come back and take him down. Bear cavalry is not going to be enough. You need the guns. Get those rifles on top of him. Ooh. Barbecue bear for dinner? Those skull cannon. That skull cannon just got stuck behind the wall. I don't think it can do anything from that angle. That's the skull cannon. Oh, the lockdown spell? Oh, he's busy. He's busy with other things. Yeah, that's the lockdown spell. It does quite a bit of good single target damage. There we go. Nice cone shape for those guys. And that's a skull cannon. It looks actually quite funny. It's like a little wagon. Like, oh, more bloodthirster, the regular type. This is a tough wave. Ooh. And another one. Doesn't have enough wind and magic to fire that one. Send a cavalry at him. Here's the skull cannon that's actually doing stuff in the back. Alright. The flush maul is almost dead. Skarrog. That's the skull cannon right there on the bottom. He's gonna be down soon. Yeah, I guess the bear cavalry is just really good tanky unit to just hold, keep him occupied. Or else he's just gonna shred infantry. Oh, they broke through the wall. Not good. Time to turn those rifles into axes and go into melee. The cavalry's a little bit underutilized, but the battle's still impressive. And down he goes. Enemy has been defeated.
My brave Kislevites, we stand triumphant. But Khorne is not the only dark god with a realm in this accursed place. The battle is won, but the war goes on. Come, we must continue our search for what is lost.
Alrighty, so that's his final result. Score 9,000 something. It's actually quite impressive because I think I only got around 8,000. Took me about 40 minutes of playtime though, so I guess that weighed heavily into that. And overall, really fun experience. I hope you guys enjoy watching this as well. There's going to be a lot more content being shown in the coming days and coming weeks for Warhammer 3. Especially the Kislev faction, which is the main focus of this battle in particular. And it's going to be a pretty cool experience. And having this new type of battle format being added to a franchise such as Total War, it's actually quite an ambitious undertaking by the developers, because they could have just kept it the same as the first two games in the trilogy. But with this type of kind of a cinematic grand experience to kind of conclude your fighting through each of these 4 realms of chaos. Now, obviously, all the footage you see today are pre-release footage, and the game is still being developed for release later this year, so things can change. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and see you all next time. Bye!